Productivity post COVID-19 era. What is important? Well, why I would like to share these things with you today, actually, because productivity nowadays is like essential things in our life. We actually need to study productivity. We really need to see productivity because it's actually everywhere in our life, and we can actually see productivity that is surrounding us in every day in our daily life. We really need to practice it, and we really need to be taking care about it. It's really important that we do care about it. And actually, it is like as a chance for us to maybe for some people who actually would like to do some research, I will be actually giving some hints for future research directions out of like for people who actually do care about these things. And I like it because it's actually a part of my PhD research. I do like write on this thing, and in the future, if I got any publication, I will be talking about this thing. And it's like good that we can deal with it, and hopefully this sharing session today will actually give you an introduction on how productivity and how it's actually COVID-19 affected, and what the things that we need to do when we deal with the productivity, especially after the COVID-19 crisis. Okay, I will be touching the things here on outline. I will be give some a few introduction about the productivity, and I will like also like the things and like what happened to the productivity since the period before the COVID-19 crisis, and uh, how we can actually tackle this reduction in the productivity that occurred after the crisis. And also, I will be touching slightly on the productivity and link it to the social business, because yeah, productivity is something to do with social business. Since here we are in AIU, we do care about social business. For those who are actually joining us from not from AIU, we actually we really do care about social business a lot, and this is why our niche area in AIU is social business. So I would like to talk about for a while at the end of the session. Okay, that's this goes like this with our introduction. Okay, this is like a general definition, basic definition of the productivity. It's commonly defined as like a ratio between volume of output and the volume of input. But the key word here that we actually use to do care about and take care about is efficiency. How efficiently we are using our inputs to create output. So how much output is actually we are producing by using our input efficiently. Okay, and this is the keyword actually. Efficiency means doing the job well. How well we are using our inputs to do the job and to produce our output. And if we are if we are using and following the good strategy to effectively use our input. So of course we're gonna have output and better, and we are productive more. Say that, and it's like the thing that we actually do care about, because empirically and theoretically has been declared that okay, our productivity is the most important thing, and actually in the long run gains can actually be achieved by increase in the investment in the broad sense, which is actually and technology transfer technology and technological knowledge is actually the most essential things in productivity. And those people who are actually very good on economists and scientists who have actually was dealing with the productivity are saying a lot of things about productivity and why it's important. Like low productivity growth would have profound and adverse implications for progress in global living standards. This is what people actually say about productivity. Okay, productivity isn't everything, but in the long run is almost everything. This is why productivity is actually a good indicator of long run economic growth. So if nowadays many people actually measuring long run economic growth using productivity rather than GDP because it's actually more informative. It's really describe our society, our economic growth. It's telling us a lot about our economic growth in the long run. So the things that actually we need to care about, that productivity is something that we use to measure in the long run. How we measure productivity, it's like many type of measurements that we can use to measure productivity. But I will actually focus on these two, which is total factor productivity and labor productivity. The beauty of these two measurements are actually that can be done and can be calculated not only for the aggregate level, which is the for countries or for state or for government side, but also on the microeconomic level, which is on firm level or maybe on the um, yeah, the microeconomic level for company, firm. It also can be calculated and can also be give us some information about. Total factor productivity, a simple definition, is like the portion of output which is not explained by the amount on board. Okay, that we use to. Usually we use labor and capital to measure our input, right? Efficiently, we are using this capital that is actually our total factor productivity. So it determines by how efficiently and intensely the inputs are utilized in the production. So Robert Solow is actually used to be the father of this theory because he's the one who actually come up with his theoretical work on the long run economic growth. And he actually proposed this theory to us since long time ago. And he said that the long run growth in income per capita is an economy in an economy with an aggregate new classical production function must be driven by a growth in total factor productivity. Okay, most of the gap in the income per capita between rich and poor countries is associated with large cross-country differences in total factor productivity. So how much total factor productivity is for different countries can actually inform us the differences and the variety of how this country is rich and how this country is poor. Labor productivity is actually measuring how the labor and the workers actually are productive. Maybe in two ways we can measure this: is how the number of people are actually employed in the society and in the economy, and also can be measured as the number of hours worked for in the country. So labor productivity is also an important element of productivity that actually we can measure it, and we can actually do some analysis to calculate how good is it and how bad is it from country to another. So the growth of labor productivity is the main source of lasting per capita income growth, which in turn is the primary driver of poverty reduction. So it is actually how good is it and how important the labor productivity is can actually determine our poverty and determine also our standard of living. The evolution of productivity, the productivity was actually doing well, but recently, even before COVID-19, the productivity was actually doing not really well. And it was like having some peaks and falls. Productivity growth has sharply slowed down, of course, after the global financial crisis, widespread, affecting around 70% of advanced economy and emerging market and developing economies, and more than 80% of the global extreme poor countries. From its pre-crisis, pre-financial crisis peak 2007, global productivity growth slowed drastically in 2009 to minus 0.4%, which actually have actually already, I will show this, this graph that actually can display how productivity is actually was doing even since 1981 until the period before the COVID-19 crisis. It's the way that actually was improving financial crisis, global financial crisis 2008, but now before the COVID it was like actually couldn't even recover the same productivity that we actually used to see before the financial crisis. And nowadays, before of COVID-19, of course, the productivity has also getting worse, and the things actually are not doing well. And it's actually the most important thing that we need to take care about nowadays is how we can improve and tackle this reduction in the productivity that happens during this pandemic crisis. And yes, this is like how the average of sample in that includes I think 35 advanced economies and 126 developing economies, EMDE, emerging market and developing economies, and also 27 labor low-income countries. If anybody is actually interested in this topic, maybe he can contact me. I can actually provide the data that have been used to come up with these graphs. And actually, I also can provide the resources, the main resources that maybe we can be used to extract this data, and also the references, the researches that have been done in this area. So maybe you can later on, if you are interested, maybe I can share the materials and the data used in this uh, slides and this graphs. Okay. This is actually what maybe the things that actually maybe affect the productivity at most: the natural disasters, wars, and financial crisis. This is what we actually face. That actually the things affecting productivity badly. Of course, the natural resources, natural disasters are the most, and we can actually consider COVID-19 as one of those natural disasters. Maybe you can say it is actually biological natural disaster that actually also affect our productivity very bad. Wars and financial crisis also are very main sources of reduction of the productivity. The long-term productivity growth is driven by innovation, investment in physical capital, and enhanced human capital. This is actually the drivers of productivity. If we know how we can improve these things, we can actually do best and do better about to tackle productivity issue. So those are the things that explain productivity growth. And this requires growth-friendly environment with supportive institutions and macroeconomic stability. These are like the most important thing that we need to be taking care about when we actually need to increase our productivity. The drivers of productivity and labor productivity are the approximate sources. Physical capital is like innovation, physical capital. Okay, quality of the labor force are like the most important thing that we need to care about, because when we have innovation and we have technology, we have better economic growth and we have better productivity growth. And also when we have physical capital, because there is a robust cross-section association between the investment rate and the labor productivity, which may even have strengthened over time. So the quality of labor productivity. And we also have the demographic factors. When the society have the very old age people, like sometimes maybe some countries in Europe, of course the productivity will be less. When the actually the when the society have actually young people are actually more productive, and young age people are actually considered as more productive society. And yeah, supportive environment. We actually need a really supportive environment like institutions and infrastructure, and we also need policies, and we also need social conditions that also will be a very potential driver of labor productivity. And also firm level factors like innovation capabilities, input quality and regulations acting at the firm or market level are also very important drivers of labor productivity. So these things are actually maybe the what they call the most important drivers of labor productivity, and how much they actually contribute to increase the labor productivity, the demography, economic complexity, income quality, uh, yeah, urban, gender quality, financial FDI, foreign direct investments, finance, trade, all are like actually important things to be taken care about to uh, tackle our productivity issue. Okay, so during the sessions, what happened to the productivity as we are seeing nowadays in our daily life because of COVID-19 and other things. So of course, deep recession actually prominent deterioration in the level of productivity, and several factors that actually contributed to this decline of productivity during the recession. First, actually weakening the fundamental drivers, which I explained just now, of productivity, and slowing the reallocation within and between sectors. Adverse shock in the productivity growth. Those are actually the most important. And it actually the, the pandemic, when I want to actually focus on how pandemic or because we do have an experience. This is COVID-19 was not the first pandemic we faced in our life, and previously there was more pandemics happened, and maybe we have some experience about how pandemics actually affect our productivity. So it actually affects the productivity from two perspectives, which from supply side and from demand side. From supply side is actually depleted our labor force and also weakening our physical capital and also making some disrupted supply chains and innovation. From demand side, there is a lower business environment. The business environment has actually deteriorated, and also weaker consumer demand. We have job losses, We have reduced income, increased cost of debt and services, higher uncertainty. Yeah, everybody forced to close their market and their businesses because of the lockdown. Those all these things are actually have affected our productivity very badly. Okay. Yeah, it was the worst decline in the history since since World War II, and it was like very deep recession in our productivity, and the channels are actually from lower investment, as I said, and duration of human capital because of unemployment that happened and loss of schooling, retreat from global trade and supply linkages are actually all are the resources from our from the COVID-19 that have actually lead to this decrease in the productivity. Yes, this is what happened, and the data maybe can show us how investment are actually decreased in 2020, and we can see now like why productivity has faced this sharp reduction during this pandemic. I'm really sorry, the resources and the references are actually yet limited, not many, because sometimes it's like need sometimes to understand how productivity has affected because of this pandemic. As I said, the productivity that we can actually measure it in long term and long run. So maybe in a few years ahead, maybe we can see more works on these things, and this is why I would like to share this, have this sharing session. If anybody would like to actually do something and do some research on this area that can actually contribute, and it's like a good topic actually that can be studied, and the data is already there. Sometimes we need more data, but the data will be available, and we still need more research on this area. There's still some shortage on research on this area because actually we still need sometimes to understand how the productivity has been affected by the pandemic. One of the researchers that have been done, I think in UK, he actually could find how much the pandemic and the COVID-19 affected the productivity, the TFB and the labor productivity. And he actually said that in UK private sector productivity actually dropped between 2020 quarter 2 to 2021 quarter 2 at 5%. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the TFB has also faced a 7% over the medium term reduction, and equivalent to about around 1 year of pre-pandemic UK productivity growth. It's like actually really you can observe the pattern of the productivity, that actually how much for labor productivity was actually affected by the pandemic, and also at the same time the total factor productivity. Maybe we still need more data to observe how the pattern is actually going. Maybe nowadays we can see that the productivity is being a little bit better because we have already adopted the pandemic. We actually adopt how we can use our energy efficiently and use our time efficiently, and we adapted to work maybe from home, and some people are actually getting back to work, so the productivity is going to be better from last year. And how actually productivity affected the business is how much actually prices have decreased and employment has also decreased. How, but when we see at investment also, and we if we see the hours worked, which actually represent our labor productivity, how much it actually was doing the work during the pandemic from 2020 quarter two to 2020 quarter four. The last thing that I would like to share about the, the implication of COVID on productivity, not always it's like a bad impact. It's a bad impact in terms of weaker investment and trade and erosion of human capital, which shifts in labor market. But it's also a bad implication in slowing the momentum in labor reallocation, and also makes heavy debt burden to, throughout the world. But also it's sometimes and somehow the productive the COVID-19 pandemic has actually made some good changes maybe in terms of organizational and technological change. So everybody now has transferred its work from the normal one to technology and start using the technology, start using the whatever platforms we actually have in our life. So that makes things better and also drives and resilient supply chains, improvement in the education, and also there is some financial development during the pandemic because like digital technologies tested the pandemic may expand the access to finance to the poorest countries and enable more efficient government services delivery and accelerate the trend toward the automation and more and some routine occupations. And it's actually have been doing little good things if we can say that in our life. If we go to the most important part of our today session, maybe we can just take care about how the things that actually we need to do, how to tackle this productivity reduction. Maybe yes, the most important thing, the proactive policy approach is needed to boost productivity growth. And after a while, I will explain more about this thing. Policymakers will need to facilitate investment in physical and human capital. It's really important thing. If we need to increase our labor productivity, we really need to be caring about the labor and how are actually effective and how they are actually productive by investing in the human capital and maybe giving more investments on R&D, research and development, and training. It's also important for them to tackle the reduction in labor productivity. And resources will need to be reallocated toward more productive sectors and enterprises through strengthening the competition and firms' capabilities to reinvigorate the technology adoption and innovation will need to be reinvigorated, including through ensuring that workers possesses the appropriate skills to transition the new sectors and that they are adequately covered by the social protections. These are actually important things that we need to do in order to tackle the reduction in the labor productivity. And we also need to more stable macroeconomic environment and institutional environment that will increase the effectiveness of these approaches. The policy to boost productivity must be well targeted. Of course, we need to be targeted the policy and for which side that for which area that we need to invest more and spend more, and individuals, country characteristics, and the interactions between policy measures need to be taken into account. Rapid technological change triggered by the pandemic may result in large productivity gains. So we really need to be clear on how to use technology and efficiently and effectively, so we can make sure that it is good for, and to increase and to get the productivity reduction. Maybe I will jump direct to the immediate actions that may be the most important thing that nowadays the government should actually uh, do regarding their structural reform. They need some policies and structural reforms so they can actually do something to help productivity to improve. Yeah, for especially for those countries that are actually affected heavily because of the pandemic. Um, we actually need to tell the policymakers that you are the reforms that they are gonna make is actually going to help the productivity from supply side and from the demand side. Maybe from the supply side, reform that gains enhanced resources allocation and economic dynamism. Structural reform aims to support economic growth through productivity improvement and tax reduction, such as deleveraging, credit loosening, and tax cuts were taken mainly targeting the private sector. I think nowadays many governments around the world are actually practicing this, but some countries are actually not doing very well, so they are left behind. It's actually more important for them to do some reforms actually because they need to support the private sector. Improving resources allocation through market means for five factors, which is land, labor, capital, technology, data is like actually most important thing that we actually need to be caring about. How sufficiently we are using our labor, how sufficiently we are using our land, capital to make more and better decisions. And also for the second part, the continued investment in research and development, which is very important. Governments around the world should have actually taken care about to invest in R&D because, of course, innovation and technological breakthrough have a potential significantly boost the productivity through creative destruction and resources reallocation toward more efficient industries and firms. So we need to find what are those more sufficient and efficient sectors that we need to spend more and we need to actually taking care more about so we can actually help to support our productivity. And productivity growth is a key to sustain long-term global growth and raise the living of the standard of living for the humankind. This is why sustaining R&D investment and exploring ways to use these R&D resources effectively is particularly important because there is evidence to suggest that innovation has become harder in recent times. Global economic cooperation and integration is actually the time for every country nowadays to collaborate and integrate among them so they can actually achieve better results. And this requires foremost that the world community finds a way of enhancing trust among themselves, which is not just build a good will, but on the recognition that we are facing the common threats and as the virus and diseases the common challenges such as the environment and climate change, poverty reduction, and also equality. This is very important that actually the governments nowadays need to collaborate how to tackle these issues because it's like global issues, not only one country issue. So their cooperation and their trust among themselves, it's also an important way that they need to do immediately because like if we go late, the things will be will go to the worst. And to do so, the human society globally as a whole should create a new global social contract initiated and through the United Nations maybe or any other framework that maybe they can actually sit together and discuss. The global social contract actually can be built upon the recent call for establishing social contract between the rich and the poor, the old and young, between today and tomorrow within the nation in order to address the social tension and adapt the states to new situations. This is the immediate action that maybe people and governments nowadays need to be taking care about. This new global enhance the trust and mutual respect between the people and nations and serve the foundation for future global cooperation to face global challenges because COVID-19 will not be the end of challenges. There might be more challenges we are going to face in the future. So our cooperation is actually important that we really need to do because we need to protect ourselves from future challenges such as COVID or what else, we don't know. And enable countries to rearrange in and more effectively reform that multilateral cooperation and frameworks for long-term benefits to the human society, including global prosperity and stability, climate change, and also sustainable development. Okay, maybe the final part that I would like to maybe talking about is how we can link our productivity and social business. As I said, social business is the niche area of AIU. For those who are joining from outside AIU and Bukhari International University, if you would like to know more about social business, AIU is the best place to go and ask and to know better about social business. Our staff here is actually very expert on this area. We are teaching our students and we are doing, if you go to our Facebook page and our website, you can see a lot of activities that we can encourage the activities regarding the social business. But since productivity is touching everything in our life, it also has something to do with social business. And I do believe that the research that have been done on the productivity in social business are not much. And we still have a promised research area and a research agenda for future that we can actually test how much productive is the social business around the world. Maybe it's important for the one who are actually interested in this area to start doing that immediately because nowadays we still need more information, we still need more research and empirical research, theoretical research on this area. Social economy, of course, that actually contains all these things, the non-for-profit, cooperatives, mutual and hybrid business and social enterprises in many states have historically played an important role in delivering services to communities, fostering economic participation, and contributing to social innovation. So we do believe like social business is a very crucial and important in our life because it actually tackles the most important issues nowadays in the world, which is most importantly the unemployment, the what else maybe the environment issues, the issues regarding the environment, and yeah, it's like a very good area that maybe we need to practice in terms of businesses, so everybody can actually have an idea on how to create a social business or transfer the normal businesses to social business, which can actually solve a society problem. Social business can create value, experience, and increase the workforce productivity and effectiveness and accelerate innovation. This is actually for like research has been done before, and they actually approve theoretically that social business is a very good area where they can increase the labor productivity. And recently, like Abbott in 2019 at all, actually they have done some research maybe in Australia on social business and how the social business are actually in Australia is good. They said although social enterprises generally generated smaller profit, but therefore could be less profitable their relative to the level of labor productivity, which is the value added in income to labor employed, was comparable or higher than the normal business, the small and medium enterprises. This is the finding that they have actually. Maybe if anyone interested, maybe I can send him the reference, and maybe he can read more about it. And also another research maybe have also said that social enterprises may benefit more financially from social improvements through, for example, increased labor productivity and motivations for its employees if income is very low. Because social business, when you are working in social business, because you are like actually enhancing your productivity, because the people and the workers are actually very mentally are actually dealing with very big issues like employment and unemployment, and they actually contributing on this solving these major issues in the world. So they will have the motivation and they have the to increase their working hard and increase their potential to work and to produce more and spend more hours to go and work and to solve this major issue. This is why I have one of the researchers 2019 acknowledged social innovations can enhance productivity. This is actually finding from his research. Social innovations can bring down costs, thereby making their services more affordable. And social value vision connects people to the inspiring purpose, those like major issue in the world, to something larger than themselves and create positive employee attitudes. And of course, these things will be leading to a very good and increase the productivity of the labor and the workers in the social business. Yes, maybe some suggestions for those who are actually can do some research on this area. Future research could advance policy knowledge and practice for doing comparisons of relevant social enterprises performance against the social policy programs and welfare intervention, because we still need more research, not only in some countries. Maybe we need to expand the research among among the countries and see how well they are performing in this area. And yes, especially these days after the COVID-19, it's actually essential work to do to study these things and try to find the way that we need to do and we need to practice to increase our productivity, which is the thing that the rest of the world they still need to know and they still need to understand better these things. So this is why we still need more research on this area. Detailed analysis of social enterprises would also tell us more about what makes social enterprises relatively productive and what amendments there might be to their performance. Therefore, study might also tell us to use more about the impact of external pressures because, of course, they actually the surrounding area among the social business and the normal business as well. There's external pressures such as the fluctuations in the business cycle. They might have an productiveness of social they might impact the productivity of social business and social enterprises. This area actually are a promised area for future research. I think there is some research that have been done here, and nowadays I think many are actually focusing on this area. But I do believe that we still need more. We still need to understand more, and especially in terms of productivity. I think I have finished my slide until now.